President Trump, I'm so glad that you noticed the 22 million illegal invaders who are using Social Security. Now, I know that your Doge people didn't have to do anything more than press one key, because any person who is getting taxes that is paying taxes and receiving tax returns that is actually an invader in this country can go online, which I just did, and get literally, it's the easiest thing you can possibly do. Plus, you can get the legal advice to help you with this. And that's why so many people have done it. The 22 million you were told about, I'm sure that means that your Doge team found the 9 as the first number in their Social Security number. That means basically that they're a felon who's come into this country, got a Social Security number, pays taxes, and receives tax returns. Now that's 22 million, and that's called an individual tax identification number, which anyone can get. It's the easiest thing to do. So I hope you didn't pay him too much money to come with that. Now that's 22 million people who are receiving all kinds of money that oftentimes through remittance is leaving this country to Mexico, to India, to other countries. So that's 62 billion a year that is leaving in remittance from these people who pay taxes, receive tax returns, and as I just saw online, you can go and look up your ITIN, the individual tax identification number, if you are an illegal in this country from Mexico, and then you can have your wife and all your children in Mexico also be claimed on your tax forms as dependents and as your spouse, though they don't even live in this country. And then the problem, Mr. President, is this, as we have said so many times before. It isn't 22 million. The FBI said there were 22 million when this was investigated a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And how did they do that? That took one FBI agent walking over to IRS and saying, hey, is it true that every single person who has a 9 in front of their Social Security number is an illegal alien? And the person looked up and said, we're not supposed to tell you. Are you going to arrest me if I tell you? Because everything at the IRS is supposed to be super top secret, more so than any other department. But that's why the Democrats right now, Mr. President, are so concerned about Doge being in the Treasury, because the Treasury has access to all IRS records. The IRS is run by people who live in great fear, who can't turn in all the fraud they see because it's already a given. They know that in some programs it's 30% fraud, which turns out to be hundreds of billions of dollars. They know that in certain categories, this year alone, there will be $236 billion of fraud in just one area that they watch out for all the time. And that doesn't count all the offshore money going out of this country without any taxes being paid on it. And they don't follow people up on that, let alone the repatriated money from other countries that come in through offshore accounts into this country without paying any taxes on it. So, Mr. President, here's the reality. I'm sorry to have to tell you. The 22 million, those are the ones who actually followed what the lawyers that we, the people, paid, the federal lawyers, told them to do. Now, there's another program, which we've discussed before, which is that the lawyers tell them to seek out, through their relatives in this country, people's obituaries and then assume their Social Security numbers. And in many cases, because the IRS does not check, because Social Security does not check, because the U.S. Treasury does not check, you could be paid for another 20, 30 years on someone's Social Security, as well as be an illegal alien who is running undercover without getting an ITIN number with a 9 at the beginning of your Social Security number, which then they can vote. They can get their driver's license. They can do whatever they want. They look like citizens, don't they?
Get a business. They can get a business.
And know what? And they can get an EIN, excuse me. And this is the trick. If you come into the country and you get an ITIN and then you start a small business and get an EIN, now you can bring your whole family in because you're their sponsor. You're an illegal invader starting a business. Now you're going to bring your whole family in because you're their sponsor. You're going to bring them in. And one can understand, Mr. President, because the immigration laws in this country are terrible. When you talk to immigrants here who have done it legally, it took many, many years and a lot of assets and a tremendous amount of work and trouble to come in. So people just cross the border. There's 22 million others who are stealing dead people's Social Security numbers, actually taking their benefits in many cases. And now I have directly from people who I believe truly know this. It isn't 44 million who are here, who are illegals with ITIN numbers, who are working under the table and sending remittances back to other countries. 62 billion last year from America in remittances, and they don't pay taxes on it, to people in Mexico. But that's 44. Estimates now, for people who know, say it's 70 million, because there's many other ways to get in that we're not talking about here. So there's so many. All you have to do is go on the internet. Once you get a cell phone, it will lead you right into this country and how to get into a tax, IRS, and Social Security scam.